Hey everybody, welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with Steph Zamorano and Ron Placone. Ron, you're
Hello.
going on tour in November, right?
Yeah, in November, I'm going to Sacramento, San Francisco, Austin, Texas, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Tickets for all that's available now at ronplacone.com.
So in New York City, the Democratic Party put out a mailer that smeared Cynthia Nixon. We talked about this in another video. It called her anti-Semite. It said she was anti-Semite, that she supported BDS. She didn't do that. And the New York Times then wrote this. Andrew Cuomo owes Cynthia Nixon an apology. A last-minute mailer from Democrats wrongly describing Ms. Nixon as anti-Semitic is a disgrace. And that's by the editorial board at the New York Times. Now I'm going to show you how messed up the New York Times is. Do you want to know how crazy and backward thinking the people who actually run the New York Times are, their editorial board? I'm going to show you. And this is going to blow your mind, but get ready. You know the mainstream news is worse than you think, right? Okay, just so I hope that, that's why I have a show, right? This is from their editorial, from the editorial board at the New York Times. So what they called what Andrew Cuomo did, or the Democratic Party did, and they're saying Andrew Cuomo's responsible because he's the friggin' governor of the state. It says, this is dirty politics. Nearly as sleazy as it gets. Talk about what Cuomo's doing, and he owes the apology. Days before voting Thursday in Governor Andrew Cuomo's primary race for re-election, the New York State Democratic Committee has sent voters a campaign mailer falsely accusing his challenger, Cynthia Nixon, of being silent on the rise of anti-Semitism. It says she supports the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement against Israel over its treatment of Palestinians. She does not. It accuses Ms. Nixon of opposing tax-supported funding of yeshivas, the private religious schools attended by many of New York City's Orthodox Jews. She has never said that. With anti-Semitism and bigotry on the rise, we can't take a chance, the mailer reads, re-elect Governor Cuomo. This is the lowest form of politics. This is the New York Times editorial board saying this. Call it sleazy as it gets, the lowest form of politics, and it's the most dangerous, exploiting the festering wounds and fears along ethnic and religious lines. Wow, this sounds horrible. I mean, this sounds like they want Andrew Cuomo locked up almost. That's how bad this is.
How could you support somebody that dishonest?
While Mr. Cuomo is at it, he might also mention that Ms. Nixon attends a Manhattan synagogue. Saturday night, her rabbi, Sharon Kleinbaum, issued a joint statement with her wife, the teachers union leader Randy Weingarten, on Facebook, calling the charges in the mailer a baseless lie. Other Democrats have also condemned Mr. Cuomo and the Democratic Party for the flyer. Given all the ethical lapses in Mr. Cuomo's administration, in which he has also pleaded ignorance, this smear is appalling. So now it's as sleazy as it gets, the lowest of the low. It's dangerous, and his ethical lapses and smears are appalling. They go on to say it's the kind of cynical behavior that detracts from Mr. Cuomo's often impressive ability to govern. If he's not careful, it could make voters think they have no choice but to vote for someone else. You mean he's being careful? If he's not, that anti-Semitism smear was him being careful?
And they do have the choice to vote for somebody else.
Turns out they do have the choice.
That's what a primary is.
So let's just get this straight. I just want to get it straight. I want to see all the stuff. They said dirty politics, as sleazy as it gets. It's the lowest form of politics, most dangerous. It's also appalling. And then they go on and says Mr. Cuomo deserves a third term because of his potential to lead.
You know, Jimmy, he says what's on his mind. He's
the lowest form, the dirtiest, the smeariest, the worst, the lowest of low in politics. And by the way, we endorse him over Cynthia Nixon. Now you know why people get their news from YouTube. You're going to listen to these son of a bitches? You're going to let these pieces of it, these establishment oligarchs who don't give a crap about you, or the fact that you don't, or the fact that half the country's locked up for frickin' marijuana, and 30 million people don't have health care, and the people who do still go bankrupt when they get sick, and everybody's barely treading water. These people at the New York Times do not care. They know what Andrew Cuomo is. They know how disgusting and the lowest of the low he is, and they still endorse him. I cannot think of another thing that is more mind-blowing in politics than this. This trumps Donald Trump being president. I don't even know. And then it even gets worse. How could you be worse than that, Jimmy? Call him every name in the book and then you endorse him because of his potential to lead? Hey, he's a 2-term governor. To be sure of it, this is the next paragraph. To be sure of it, New York Democrats need to turn out in large numbers on Thursday to support every reform-driven candidate possible. Except Cynthia Nixon, the one at the top of the ticket. We're going to endorse the most corrupted, lowest piece of it that we've ever seen in politics. We're going to endorse him because we're the New York Times editorial board. And then we're going to pretend that we care about reforming the party, and we're going to say that is them exactly what Chris Hedges says. This is the establishment knowing all the words you're supposed to use when it comes to democracy and then doing everything they can to blow democracy up. So this is them saying, we've got to come out and support reform-driven candidates. What about Andrew Cuomo? Oh, not that one. Cynthia Nixon's got... No, not that. You mean not that one? Which ones? Well, we're not going to really say. They need to support every reform-driven candidate possible for the legislature, for attorney general, even the party committees. They could teach Albany a lesson if won't soon forget. Who's going to teach you a lesson you won't soon forget? By the way, the New York Times, Cuomo is corrupt. New York Times, Cuomo is really, really corrupt. New York Times, it's a freaking bonkers how totally corrupt Cuomo is. Vote Cuomo. I'll throw it over to my panel. Are your minds as blown as my mind is over the I mean, I know the New York Times is going to go after, they're going to support every war and every corporatist, but doing it in the same editorial where you call him out for how corrupt he is and then endorse him, how can you ever take this people seriously ever again?
But Jimmy, I mean, that reasoning deserves an award. The reason he deserves a third term is because he has the potential to lead. He has been governor since the year 2011. If he has potential, we would have seen it by now.
Well, yes, he's a 2-term governor. He has the potential. When does that stop being the potential? When do you start being a leader? He hasn't led on anything except bad things.
It's true.
You know, to
third time's the charm.
To call your somebody who's running against you anti-Semite, it's like what. I don't understand what's happened to our nation, that's what all these campaigns are boiling down to right now. Just they're smearing everybody. And, you know, some people are pointing out Cuomo must be pretty nervous about Nixon to be putting out this kind of flyer. He must be feeling the heat.
I hope so. I think that's what it is. Yeah. Well, that's Steph. This is just another one. I mean, it doesn't come down to this, but it comes down to just any dirty trick possible by the establishment. I mean, look, they called Bernie Sanders a sexist. They called Bernie Sanders a sexist. They called Bernie Sanders racist. So now when you call Bernie Sanders a sexist and a racist, you render those terms meaningless. The people who want those things to stick when you call Trump a racist and Trump a sexist, well, now they are not going to because you say the same things about Bernie Sanders. That's how dumb people are who do that kind of thing. That's how dumb and desperate the establishment is.
And just completely intellectually lazy too, because I mean, especially this flyer, it shows not only is it a totally unwarranted smear of her, but it's also a gross oversimplification of the BDS movement.
Yes, it is. And by the way, she doesn't endorse it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did she? So people were saying, no, she did 10 years ago. 10 years ago. She signed a paper that says they joined some 200 signatories, including actors Ed Asner, Cynthia Nixon, Mandy Patinkin, and Theodore Bickel, and playwright Tony Kushner. And the headline is Group Set to Boycott of Israel Troop in New York. So she signed that letter. That wasn't BDS. That was specific about something else. And in fact, there's another couple of people on there who signed it who also don't support the BDS movement. That was a specific thing over a specific thing. So people are going to try and confuse you with that. So that's why I'm putting it in there. Don't let them confuse you with it. By the way, here's something Andrew Cuomo said back in 2007 when Barack Obama was running. This just in case you still aren't sure about Andrew Cuomo. He said this: Iowa and New Hampshire require you to do something no other races do. He's talking. So this is in the context of Barack Obama running for president. They require you to do something no other races do, and I like it. And I agree with you. It's a good thing. It's not a TV-crazed race, You can't just buy your way through that race. It doesn't work that way. It's frankly a more demanding process. You have to get on a bus. You have to go into a diner. You have to shake hands. You have to sit down with 10 people in a living room. You can't shuck and jive at a press conference. You can't just put off reporters because you have real people looking at you saying, answer the question. All those moves you can make with the press don't work when you're in someone's living room. Who do you think he's referring to when he says you could shuck and jive? So that was Andrew Cuomo. Just so you know, if you had any doubt, I hope that erases it.
Rumor has it at the end of that, he also said, get off my lawn, and that wasn't in the quote for whatever reason.
New York Times endorsed that guy. New York Times. He deserves a third term. He deserves a third term because he has a potential. It's right in that. How stupid is that? Because of his potential to lead a third term. He might become a leader. We've given him 8 years. We're not sure. We've given him almost a decade. Whew. So if you need... this is the same establishment these are the same people who populate the Democratic Party, the people who write stuff like this. These are the same people who donate to the Democratic Party, people who write stuff like this. And I just won't cotton to that party anymore. I vote for progressives no matter where they are. I don't support the Democratic Party one bit. Nor should you. Anything else? Is that it?
Nice.
Okay. Way to go, New York Times. Thanks for the help. Thanks for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you are, you're probably not. It only takes a second to check, and then you have to ring that bell so they send you a notification when we drop a new video. Otherwise, they won't tell you when we drop new videos. And if you like our show, please help support it. Become a patron. We give you hours of bonus material every week, and we give a live stream. We do a live stream every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time when you could ask us questions and we answer them back. Thanks for your support.